What's going on, workforce? Brian here, and Chris on location somewhere in the world, going on his little ski trip this week. We're going to be talking today about the changing of tides. PlayStation finally embracing true multi-platform development philosophy with their acquisition of Bungie. And Chris has a shocked face, but this is actually a new article that literally just dropped 2 seconds ago with the head of PlayStation talking about their goal of live services, and they've got more information to come. And guess what? They're also more acquisitions to come. So lots of speculation. This is acquisition season. Chris, who's your pick for who's getting bought next? What do you think, man? We got a lot to talk about.
I read the one 6 hours ago, which I guess had less information.
Yeah,
and it was just, they were going to remain independent.
Yes.
And now Bungie, did they start as an in-house team for Microsoft?
No, they were independent.
They were independent.
Bought by Microsoft. Activision said, "Hey, we'd like to go independent."
Overlords are the worst. I mean, they pay our paychecks and like they take all the blame for things, but we do not like that. Then they went out on their own and they were like, "Wow, we have to pay for things, and when we mess up, people hate us." And so now they would like Daddy Warbucks one more time.
Yeah.
Please.
So there are, they are kind of the Village Bicycle. Everybody's had a ride with them, at this point, outside of like Nintendo. So that's obviously like, when it comes down to
it.
Yeah.
This just in, Destiny now on Nintendo Switch. No, that would be amazing.
That would be incredible, but it's very well possible with like cloud gaming. And I think what you're seeing here is, and this is just my take on it, and I've been preaching this. I think you are also been, on that in the same kind of wheelhouse, or at least you've heard me talk about it before. But the console wars are pretty much over. This is the content wars. It is shifting, especially with the innovation of cloud, and over the next decade. Again, we're still talking about anything can happen, but we're still looking at 5 to 10 years. You think about that console traditional life cycle now at 7 years. Cloud gaming is something that really revolutionizes a lot. And as as all the infrastructure gets improved, you're just going to see that be a technology that improves, so that by 2030, 2040, it's just going to be something that I think everybody ends up just kind of like, yeah, it's just a factor of life. But what you're seeing here with not just, Bungie, you forget that PlayStation also bought a really big stake in Discord, and they also announced today that they've got more Discord integration coming with PlayStation Network. They're bridging.
When I logged in today, it asked me if I wanted to link mine with PlayStation.
There you go. Exactly.
It asked me today.
Mm-hmm. And
when I logged in, and I logged in like every other time, and I don't know that's ever asked me that before. Maybe that's been something they've offered, but like it prompted it.
It's new. Imagine this now. Because 14 is still unknown on Xbox, right? That's something we continue to obviously hope for. But imagine this now. You're playing 14, you're on PSN or you're on PC on Discord or whatever, and now you can just straight up talk. Now you can
That's
just
how you get the 11th retainer.
That's how you get your 11th retainer. Now it would be the 12th, right? You can get 10, you get the 11th with the thing, and now you get your 12th. And they're just going to work it up to like 14. It's like, here, how can we get 14 retainers? But I think this is really good for PlayStation. I think this is really good for gamers. I'm really excited by this news, especially as it relates to the fact that they also said there's not going to be any PlayStation exclusive gun on Destiny. And that was a big problem before crossplay, cross-save, is because PlayStation players couldn't play because they had special stuff just for them. And it honestly was awful. It was just the worst. And I think even players were like, this sucks. I'm playing on PC and I can't have that awesome experience because Sony bought it. Now they brought it, but they said that they're not going to do that again. I think this is a change of tides.
And Sony took that hit when the Activision Blizzard stuff, their stock took a dump, and Phil that day sent out a tweet saying, "Hey, just listen, like I just got off the phone with Sony. We're all good. Like Call of Duty's still coming to PlayStation."
Yeah.
So like they're not trying to slam anybody. I mean, it's absolutely like, you can only be bought every once in a while. Apparently, we'd have to ask what I don't know what the refractory period on getting bought is, but it doesn't seem like Phil actively wants Sony to fail, and it doesn't seem they just want their piece of the pie, and they want the biggest piece possible, but they want the whole pie to succeed. All of gaming growing benefits them as two of the largest shareholders. EA the same way. They don't want to see the others go under. They just want the whole pie to get bigger and them get their piece. And so being multi-platform means that you're getting a piece of the action on somebody else's place. And that's awesome. So I don't think it'll change anything for that. It does mean that like any titles that are not yet out, might be PlayStation exclusive or PlayStation timed exclusive or something like that. That
Yeah.
makes sense. But I don't think the existing franchises like Destiny really make sense to not let be multi-platform.
My hope personally is that we just see an era of the timed exclusive as opposed to like the console exclusive. And I think we're seeing that with God of War coming to PC. Like it doesn't have to be day and date like what Microsoft's doing, but ultimately I think it opens up more players to choice. I think what we're also seeing with how successful God of War is selling and how people are excited about it finally on PC is that's lining Sony's pocketbooks.
Right.
That's giving money to the devs, and they're like, wait a minute, like there was
because it came out so much later. They've gotten everybody who's willing to buy a PlayStation to play it. Right. So at this point, you're talking about people who otherwise just will skip it.
And they just do. And that's what Sony and what Microsoft has realized. Microsoft, I'd say, realized it way before Sony. Sony is kind of being brought to the table because of what Microsoft's doing. And everybody's just like, wait a minute. You mean I have to buy your box and I don't have to buy an Xbox? Like, and all of a sudden, when you start thinking about your phone and how gaming has really truly changed, you start looking at that as some kind of tax rather than some kind of perk. And there used to be the opposite. It used to be a perk to have that. The console, obviously, like we have consoles. I will happily still buy a PS5 if and when I can find one, because that's just kind of as a gamer who I am. But when it comes down to it, just the more choice is that who cares where you play? We just want you in our ecosystem. And I think it's really clear to see where Sony was headed going into the PS5 and where they've seen how, you know, Microsoft made the right calls, especially with Plannyware, with like, and they're even rumored to have really Game Pass.
Yeah. They pivoted really fast. I'm really impressed how fast they went from players love generations, players love, I mean, effectively being isolated and like, and they talked about the advantages of that, right? Mm-hmm. You get to guarantee that you're in a limited space where everybody has identical hardware, and like there are pros. But they sold it, you know, really focused on those pros, and the list of cons ended up being something that not everybody can live with. There are people that are like, okay, but like I still want some crossplay too. And while I'm waiting to buy a PS5, I'd love for my games to run on PS4 and everything transfer over. And like all these things that like Xbox over here saying, hey, sorry, you can't buy an Xbox, but don't worry, your current one still works. And like, if PlayStation had been able to send infinite number of 5s out, I don't think they would have had that level of friction, but they weren't.
Right.
And so I think when you had a shortage of Xbox Series X's and a shortage of 5s, Microsoft became the hero because of the shortage. Like I think the shortage really put them in a spot where their multi-generational was even shinier than it would have been otherwise. It would have been nice for people who didn't have the money, but like now there are people actively looking to pay, and you're saying, you know what, why don't you just play on your old one this week? We would love to get you the new one, but why don't we get you Halo Infinite? Why don't we get you into Forza? Why don't we
And that's where I hope we see the industry evolve too. Because yes, Microsoft said Call of Duty is going to remain on PlayStation, and people still question, well, for how long is that going to essentially expire? I honestly think that these are especially like negotiating tactics at the end of the day, where they can say, listen, like we want to bring all these games. We want to bring Starfield to you, right? Like we want to bring these games to you, but we also want either a bigger cut, we want a 15% as opposed to 30%, like etc., or we want to bring Game Pass to your platform, bring your services to our platform, we'll just figure it all out. Or essentially, like, you know, there's still obviously going to be kind of jockeying for that first place, but it's beyond a box at this point. A box is a good thing. It gives you a lot, like it gives you the ability to just have that really like well-tuned ecosystem. And I think you're going to see with PlayStation and Xbox, the competition over services, so, you know, and offerings of that nature, so that it's like, hey, you want to play in our sandbox, you can play like all these games. Heck, MLB The Show, best baseball game on the planet, now is on both, right? And so then as they start to see like, hey, if anything, multiplayer games, why are we limiting that? Because you can't, and here's the real kicker. Here's why I say this, especially about any game that wants to try and compete against Destiny, is like if you launch without crossplay, cross-save, like if you launch without that, you're shooting yourself in both feet, because your competition already does that. And people might come and check out your game and then realize, wait a minute, what, you mean I can't play with my friends? Guess what? I'm going to go play with my friends. And especially in a multiplayer component, it doesn't make sense. Halo on just Xbox and PC still actually doesn't make sense if they want Halo to be a real competitive shooter in the grand scheme of things, because even them releasing Call of Duty, that's going to become a franchise that people just gravitate to because you can play with your friends wherever you are. And if it's just Halo, it just seems kind of strange that that's still just Xbox branded. I think there's a time on that. I think there's a time limit on that.
Call of Duty's not, So Phil Spencer a while back was quoted as saying that Nintendo and Sony weren't his primary concerns, Google and Amazon were. And it was seen as tossing shade on PlayStation, but really he's just saying, I'm not playing for the same points. Like, I'm not scoring my game the same way. I'm in a totally different game. And now we have to call that the metaverse and pay Facebook a penny. And
every time you say that. Yeah.
Every time it crushes me. I'm just, drained of penny. I don't even carry change. And so, but Call of Duty is not competing with Halo.
Yeah.
So like if Halo wants to wake up and compete with Call of Duty, that's fine. It's a different audience. The people who play Call of Duty most religiously in my life, there's 4 of them. 2 of them are on mobile. They're not on a box. It's not will it be on PlayStation or will it be on Xbox? They're playing on tablets and phones. They're not, it has nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
So like Call of Duty as a franchise is multi-platform, and that doesn't mean PlayStation. Like, yeah, sure, PlayStation, fine. But like, it's mobile, which is a substantially larger audience because it's all the people who don't have a console and all the people who just don't have access to their console right now.
Yeah.
Because one of those friends that plays on mobile all the time, when he's home, he doesn't play Call of Duty, but he doesn't play shooters at all. He plays other games at home. He focuses on sports games and some RPGs, mostly single player stuff.
Yeah.
And he likes multiplayer games when he's sitting on the couch watching TV or when he's stuck in an airport or something like that. And so literally the whole genre is not even something that he focuses on until he's mobile. So like it being on PlayStation or Xbox is never going to capture him. Right. It's always going to be on the go.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm really excited about this news. Like I saw this today and I was like,
big.
And it was accompanying with the message that they said. It wasn't like, hey, we're buying Bungie and now you can only play on PlayStation. It was like, no. We're buying Bungie. They're remaining independent. That's essentially where they're building out. They want to build out those live services. They want to build out that mindset and capture as much of the pie as possible. And I think this is going to be great, especially if you love PlayStation, because I think this is just going to be more support, more money within their environment. And that means they can go and invest in more different avenues, which help offset the bigger budgets of God of War, the bigger time commitments, because they're not making money when God of War is being developed. You know, they're like, they sell the game, it's done, and then they move on to the next one. But with like a thing like Bungie, they can make money each and every year. They can make money each and every quarter with how the multiplayer games bring in revenue month over month.
They've got the data on every monetization strategy ever tried.
Exactly.
They've tried them all.
They're still trying them. They're still trying to figure it out. And so it's going to be interesting to see that if then they start to, if they're working towards something to compete with Game Pass, then all of a sudden you could see, just like where Bungie was in Game Pass, then they're no longer in Game Pass on Xbox with Destiny, that you could see them shift over and have that as an offering, as something to entice them as a part of that service. Hey, play Bungie games. Here they are. They're going to be here. And this is, and the kind of the final thought is 3.6 billion. I'm wondering if Bungie has some kind of assets, something either in the works or some kind of patents, because 3.6 billion for one franchise
seems high.
That seems really high. It tells me,
as opposed to Activision getting 69 minus Bobby's payout.
Yeah.
So they got 68.7.
Yeah.
And it's more franchises. And so like 4 is a lot, unless they see something coming, right? We don't know what's on the horizon for Destiny.
Well, we know there's Project Matador, which is essentially, I think, 2025.
Like, I haven't seen their financials. Like, have they been growing? Like, I honestly, I don't know where Destiny's at.
I think I've heard that that Bungie was warding off like one of those California lawsuits or something like that, or one of those lawsuits. And so that they could be spending money or bleeding money or, pulling the ripcord, but I don't have that like as fact. I'm just hearing some whispers.
Sony gets to see all that, right? Through this whole process, Sony gets to see under the hood. So
right. But it also gives them the ability of like, hey, it's, new era, that's done. That's, we fix that through this process or something like that. So
yep.
I think good. It's interesting to see like how they've kind of hopped around, and now they're over in the Sony camp, the originators of Halo themselves. And I think it would be very poetic, like bringing up the Halo thing, is that I hope that we see at some point Halo on PlayStation. I think that would be really exciting for gaming, in my opinion. Anyway, Chris, why don't you take us out on location?
Honestly, I'd love to talk to you about upcoming 6.1 announcements for Final Fantasy. All these acquisitions are big news because there's a lot of money moving around, and it's ultimately going to change gaming. Yeah. It's the next stage of gaming. So it's an exciting time to be a gamer. And congrats, Sony. I don't, keep it coming.
Keep it coming. More
We'll
to come.
see you guys next
More to come. More acquisitions to come. All right, guys. Y'all have a fantastic day. We'll see you next time.